Welcome back, everybody. This is Luca Mino with my premiere show on TLBTV. TLBTV presents Learn to Unlearn is the name of the show. I have a guest that I'm praying, Creator willing, will be back several times, or more than several times, to explain what's going on in what's going on today in the world, and in the world of war and injustice and greed and apathy. You name it. Greg is I'm really proud to have you with us. He's very well known, 3 decades in the military, credentialed as a counterintelligence non-commissioned officer assigned to Detachment 1, Company A, 223rd Military Intelligence Battalion of the California Army National Guard. That's a mouthful. Under the active duty command of the 205th Compliant Military Intelligence Brigade. He's also a qualified U.S. Navy corpsman and a U.S. Army medic and a medical doctor. I think I've forgotten other things, but anyway, he's also the only American in the history of this country to take his own government to court for the torture he endured by his own in Iraq. An incredible story in itself. And this is a kind of a public service announcement here. It's an emergency situation that we have to let everybody know. Greg is going to fill you in on that as soon as I shut my trap. But I have to, I have to introduce him properly. So, Greg, you have some news on that court filing that you want to share with us first.
Okay. Yes, it'd be my pleasure. And thanks for having me on your show as always. All right. So, okay. Yes, it is. It's been a very interesting day, put it that way. Yes, my case was filed with the United States Supreme Court. Okay, it's my name, Frank Gregory Ford, versus the command of the 205th Military Intelligence Unit, and they're all named, all right? They're all named. 4 defendants are named in the case, and the United States government in toto. And this case has been pending for 14 years. It's going on 14 years now, all right, since Abu Ghraib. Everybody should, that's older than 14 years old, should remember Abu Ghraib prison, the most infamous torture site put together and run by the United States government in history, all right? And I was the one who was one of the medics who had to, I was actually in Samara, at the city of Samara at the time, and my headquarters was in Abu Ghraib prison. And I just got tired, to be quite honest, and make it short and simple and sweet. Okay, as I was running an intelligence net in Samara, the city of Samara, sending my reports to my headquarters at Abu Ghraib prison. And to make a long story short, we started torturing people. And I take responsibility for the actions of my team. Yes, we were torturing people, okay? I was the medic who said, all right, we can't be doing this. My assets, my Iraqi assets came to me and said, have you Americans lost your goddamn minds, okay? That's how they asked me. They said, we let you in. You had a very light ground war coming in for a reason. We wanted to get rid of Hussein, who worked for you, all right? He was your employee. We wanted to get rid of him, okay? And then you show up and you start torturing our children. You start torturing our loved ones. Have you lost your minds? That's the question I had put to me by my assets, my Iraqi assets. And one morning, and I decided I'd had enough when I had four prisoners arrested the night before. Not one was older than 15. And our interrogators proceeded to basically demolish these kids and put all four of them during interrogation into cardiac arrest. Each teenager had cardiac arrest. And it was my job, which was treated with contempt, by the way, by the interrogators. My job was to revive these kids. I call them children. In my mind, they were children, so they could be tortured more. All right? I'd had enough. So something I did not expect to have happen was this: is when I went in and filed for a request to investigate, okay, my team on grounds of torture, they said, "Oh, okay, we've got news for you. We've got a full-scale industrial torture program going." All right? Yes, Americans torture. We like torture. Okay, that's news to me, by the way. All right? And we're making lots and lots of money, okay, because we have a program called Copper Green. That's an explosive term, Luca. That's an explosive term. And for your listeners, go ahead, and I want your listeners, and I want you to look it up and see what it says about Copper Green, okay? That term will go down in history as one of the most bloodthirsty programs of all time. It makes the Gestapo look like child's play, like pikers, all right? So, but what I did not expect to have happen for certain was the fact that they said, okay, you've got 30 seconds to remove these charges, these criminal charges, and we are going, and if you don't, we're gonna strap you to a stretcher, and we're gonna use MK Ultra drugs. MK Ultra. Okay, for those of you older than 20 years old, you should know what MK Ultra is. It's a torture program, okay, an interrogation program using drugs, illegal drugs, that are used to interrogate spies, okay, former spies, spies that have betrayed their own countries and come over to ours, okay, to find out if they're telling the truth or if you've got an agent. Okay, so anyway.
Well, ask Kathy O'Brien. Ask Kathy O'Brien about MK Ultra. And that's Kathy O'Brien with an E, B-R-I-E-N.
Right.
Go on YouTube, watch her show, and read what it says underneath the video section on there. How she was tortured, forced to have oral sex with Illuminati witch Hillary Clinton, and she was forced to watch Elder George Bush rape her 13-year-old daughter. That's pretty well what it looks like.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah.
Okay, boy. Oh, yeah. That is a horrifying description right there. Yeah. Okay, that's probably worse than being in combat.
Well, I didn't make it up. I'm just relaying messages like you are.
Yes, relay them to your listeners, because I want educated listeners in all of this. This is going to be in the news, this case, and your show is the first where this is breaking, Luca.
And I'm honored. And this is going to the head of the Liberty Beacon, and it's going to go on my show on Friday as soon as possible. So
right, absolutely.
And this is breaking news. We're really honored to have you on the show, Greg. This is what we're supposed to be. It's no ego intended. It's not about us. It's about everybody else in the world and what everybody else needs to know. I just did a live feed before I went on explaining 3 words: they don't care.
You're absolutely
correct. All you have to do is to think about anything at all, any subject whatsoever: poisoning the air, poisoning the water, Monsanto, Rockefeller medicine, the Bush crime family, like we're doing with Greg right now. They don't care. They've never cared about the people to start with, and they don't today. And this is why we have people like Greg on our show, because they don't care. And we have to pick up the pieces, and we have to sew everything together, because they've been lying for since 1776 anyway. So
yes, the Bush family, all right, just for instance, the Bush family, okay, Samuel Bush was responsible for selling all the rifles to the United States military, Army, all right, in the First World War. Prescott Bush was responsible for providing under contract to the Germans Cyclone B. Please don't believe me. Go look it up. All right. As I will tell your listeners, Luca and you, that don't believe me on any of this. I want you to look it up and research it. All right. I'm trying to counteract the effects of the Bush education program that approximately, 2 generations now have been exposed to? Mm-hmm. And it shows. It shows. All right. So I want them to look it up. So
okay. So I'm sorry to interrupt you if I am, but I just want to keep this going because you said that you were threatened if you didn't reverse or take back your charges that you were filing against your government, right? So please tell us what happened.
Well, they basically grabbed me. Okay, it took 4 guys. I'm proud to point out 4 guys to grab me, slam me onto a stretcher. All right, and then and very interestingly, I noticed the psychiatrist. They assigned a psychiatrist and her assistant to go along on the plane. There were no orders. Technically, I am still in Iraq. All right, I want everybody to know that I'm not really in California like everybody's thinking. Okay, I'm really in Iraq. All right, because I've never had a set of orders produced that show me coming home either medically evacuated or returning on my own. All right. So, but the thing is, this morning I found out, yes, there are orders. I want everybody to listen to this. This is how unafraid of the legal system the military command is, okay, and the intelligence command. I found out that the doctor that tortured me, the doctor that put that needle in my arm, as General Karpinski would say, put that needle in my arm and basically wiped out about 40% of my intellectual capabilities with this, what is it? What was it called? Amyl nitrate, okay? All right, amyl nitrate. Yeah, all right. Most people know it as something else. It's actually an interrogation drug.
Right.
Right. And this drug actually ablates part of your mind. All right. So I find out, okay, that's what I was given. Okay. I've got the medical pharmaceutical MD who is backing me up with the courts on this. All right. Highly illegal. Okay. That they gave it because it destroys brains. And that's exactly what I was given. So the doctor, by the way, had a set of orders stating I was to be tortured, okay, tortured, that's the word, and interrogated, all right, tortured and interrogated using these MK Ultra drugs. These are actually on paper, and the reason why there's only one set in existence now is because she thought today might come in the future, all right? She thought tomorrow would be today, this today, Luca, and she was right. She is correct, and she is going to court to explain that. And she is going to produce those orders showing that I was tortured and to find out about copper green. That's what they wanted to find out, if the secret was secret, okay? If the program was still secret, copper green, all right? That's all they wanted to know about, okay? So anyway, that is filed, and tomorrow at 5 o'clock, all right, anyone can go online and look up the federal court cases, okay, for the Supreme Court, and you will find my name and this case. All right, I'm very proud of that, and I want everyone to know, okay, yes, the odds are stacked against you when you tell the truth. Yes, the odds are stacked against you when you do the right thing. Okay, guess who has to live with it if you don't do the right thing? Do you think the Bush family cares? Do you think the Bush family, who has slaughtered, what, millions of people? Mm-hmm. Okay. Just ask the state of Israel what they think of the Bush family. They were stunned when they found out the Bush family was able to actually have somebody elected president. Okay, they couldn't believe how stupid Americans were.
Selected. Right? Selected.
Oh, that's right. Selected. Huh? Okay. And so, needless to say, we have a situation now, and I want to get this out, okay? This has come to my attention. I still maintain my whole system of assets and resources, okay, that tell me what's going on in the world. I certainly can't count on our government to tell me what's going on in the world. So this group of resources and assets have told me several very disturbing things. First of all, for anybody out there, all right, do not let your children join the military. Okay? Did that come across loud and clear, Lucas?
Say it again.
Do not let your children join the military, the U.S. military.
I'll actually state this in a different way. I'll actually say that before you serve your country, find out who your country is serving.
That's right. Absolutely. I found out this week, okay, and it substantiated what I heard. And I just spoke to General Karpinski about this issue. The Iraq and Syria and Kuwait are some of the most polluted, toxic grounds, okay, on the planet. And they have become that way because we made them that way with radioactivity, all right? Radiation. Do not go to these places. And the only reason why you would go to these places, Syria, Iraq, and Kuwait, is because Dick Cheney wants you to secure his oil rights purchase that he just purchased from Israel, okay, for annexing the whole section of Syria. They discovered oil in this section of Syria in the Golan Heights, all right, and they sold it to Dick Cheney, and Dick Cheney is busy starting a war. And if you think this is hysteria or panic, ask the 50 to 100,000 troops that are now surreptitiously shipped and they're on ground in Jordan, near Amman, Jordan, actually 30 miles outside of Amman, Jordan. All right, they are there to make Dick Cheney sure that his oil investment, okay, oil investment in the Golan Heights is safe and secure. In other words, this is the end of Syria as we know it. It will be a puppet state from now on, all right? And it will be because of Dick Cheney ordering the military into Jordan to take over those sections where his oil is, all right? And in the meantime, the Pentagon has spoken up and said, we don't care how many soldiers die of radiation poisoning. We don't care. We are going to continue polluting the area, the whole area, with some of the most lethal plutonium, depleted uranium in the world. All right?
Okay, so
we don't care.
So where do you want to go from here? Do you want to talk about the FERES Doctrine, or do you want to talk about the 350 tons of depleted uranium, which is uranium-238, that we put in our munitions in the Gulf War, just in the Gulf War? Or do you want to talk about the VA that was told by the Pentagon not to treat those people with radiation poisoning? Right. Your choice.
Okay, yes. The FERES Doctrine. And if you could turn the volume up for all those listeners that know about the FERES Doctrine, I'll explain it, all right? I was told by the courts that the military is attempting to have my case thrown out because of something called the FERES Doctrine, F-E-R-E-S. There's probably a couple 100,000 parents out there and family members who've lost loved ones and had the government say, oh yeah, oh you got a problem? Oh, your puppy died? Oh, too bad. You know, try to sue us. We've got the FERES Doctrine protecting us. Now, the original intention, like everything that the government puts their hand to, usually has a good intention when it starts out. And only the government can mangle, corrupt, abort, the legal system like it has. Mm-hmm. People ask me, who is the U.S. Attorney's Office? Yes, they are attacking me, the U.S. Attorney's Office, because they are the entity set up by the U.S. government to make sure the U.S. government doesn't have to obey its own laws. It has no need to obey its own laws because the U.S. Attorney's Office is there imposing the FERES Doctrine. All right, and the FERES Doctrine is pretty frightening in its implications. Like I said, at least 200,000 parents have lost children one way or the other through neglect, and especially this depleted uranium issue. Okay, and nerve gas, which was on the ground in Iraq, in Syria. Okay, and yes, the government knows this, and they have said, and they, as they told Senator Sheehan recently, Cindy Sheehan, who tried to sponsor a bill that would stop the use of depleted uranium on the battlefield. I mean, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer, but does that make sense to have some of the most lethal compounds laying around and then send your children into the middle of this, you know, this toxic wasteland? Okay, well, the military doesn't care because Dick Cheney says he doesn't care. It's just that simple. So the FERES Doctrine, folks, okay, that's what I'm attempting to overthrow. I'm attempting to have it set aside with my case, all right? And there's 200,000 parents out there that would love to bring a case against the courts if the FERES Doctrine is stopped. And it should be thrown up. It should have been thrown out 30 years ago.
I have a question. Okay, the FERES Doctrine, F-E-R-E-S, correct?
Yes.
Okay, the FERES Doctrine is used by the military. It sounds conveniently similar to the Doctrine of Discovery that was used to slaughter the original nations here on this land without impunity or fear of reprisal. In other words, immunity from prosecution. Basically, you're explaining that our military, which is basically the worldwide killing and eugenics machine, has found an easy way to do what it wants and not suffer the consequences of its actions. That's pretty well it, right?
Yes, that is absolutely correct.
Okay.
So yes, the FERES Doctrine, folks. All right, and believe me, the Pentagon doesn't advertise the FERES Doctrine. All right, they want it kept quiet because that would allow these big war profiteering criminals like the Bush family, the Bush crime family, and the Cheney family, and the Rumsfelds, okay? Yes, so they can make all the money they want from sending yours and my loved ones to war, and including me. Remember, as I was telling you, Luca, I drove right through the highway of death from Kuwait into Iraq. Guess what? That's the most radioactive ground on the globe, on the planet. It's the most radioactive. All right, and the scary thing is just the radioactive material, on the ground there is enough to produce a dirty bomb any given time, any time of the day. You know, ISIS isn't stupid, people. Okay. Yes, they are supported by Israel. Yes, they are commanded by Israeli officers. Surprise, they're not stupid, all right? And they're very angry at Americans at this point. So okay. Guess where our next dirty bomb is coming from?
Okay, Greg, I got a little brave here. I had to go get a quote from Doug Roque, if you don't mind, to explain to explain about depleted uranium, okay? And I'll say it like Greg says. It goes something like this. This is a quote. And again, it's from Doug Roque, R-O-K-K-E. He's a doctor, and he can't remember how many surgeries he's had on his kidney because he's so sick from. He was under orders by Schwarzkopf after the Gulf War because they wanted to clean up the mess that they made. So he says, quote, "The purpose of war is to kill. And the United States of America made a conscious and deliberate decision to use depleted uranium munitions. The Iraq War is one of the most, if not the most toxic war in history. During the Iraq War, the United States fired over 350 tons of munitions containing uranium-238. Okay, if anyone was, to take a pound of uranium-238 and spread it into a park somewhere, they'd go to jail forever. But our country can put uranium-238 into munitions and fire it to anyone they want, anywhere they want, without impunity, right? And they,
With impunity, yes.
so they continue to think. Just to give you an example, depleted uranium munitions are solid uranium-238. They're not coated, they're not tipped, okay? Each and every single tank round fired from the Abrams tank is 10 pounds of solid uranium-238, contaminated with plutonium, neptunium, and americium. Each round fired by the A-10 Warthog, for those of you who love the bang, bang, bang videos, right? The Warthog aircraft, okay, the tank buster, each round from that is 3/4 of a pound of solid uranium-238. We fired about 1 million rounds during the Gulf War, approximately 15,000 tank rounds, amounting in total to 350 tons of solid uranium-238. When he was ordered by Schwarzkopf to go in there and clean up the mess, they were sick within 72 hours. And you're talking bloody nose, you're talking rashes that break out, blood from the rashes, okay? So they don't care. There's those 3 words again. They couldn't care less. They know what they did it deliberately, and then they have the guts to send you and me in there, you and me and our kids in there to clean the mess up. And you're there because it's over 100 degrees in there. You're there in your shorts and your cutoffs and your boots. And this stuff is micronic in scale, microns in scale. So a gas mask isn't going to help, right? You're breathing it in constantly.
It gets into dust, and as anyone who's been in the desert knows, the wind comes up every afternoon and moves the dust around. You inhale the dust, all right, and you inhale radioactivity every time you do, okay? You know, there's been entire brigades of soldiers that are dead now as a result of this exposure. Every single person. And we're not talking 75-year-old men, 65-year-old men. No, we're talking 20-something-year-old men, all right? They've been exposed, and what do you think this does to the people who have to live in this stuff, all right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now even worse than that. Yeah, and Greg, if we can add a touch of, reality to your condition. Your condition is due to what you lived through with your breathing and your lungs.
Right. You know, my coughing is consistent through the show, and that's a direct result of my exposure to these toxic substances in Iraq. Okay,
so technically, you go to war, you start to get symptoms like that, you go to the VA, and Greg, what were you saying? The VA ordered by the Pentagon to ignore symptoms of radiation poisoning and to deny treatment of it.
Yes.
You want to rein in on that one?
And do not state under any conditions that these troops that are dying, and they're dying, all right, they are suffering from radiation. They are to be, first of all, denied, and then secondly, all right, they are to be absolutely not acknowledged as having this condition happen. And so Cindy Sheehan, Senator Sheehan, stated very clearly that she wanted this stop. She sponsored a bill, and it is now surprisingly tied up in the Senate, not going anywhere at all. And the Pentagon told her, look, what part about we don't care don't you understand, all right? So this is all the Pentagon understands. I'll be real straightforward and real simple. Do not let your children or your loved ones go to the Middle East, all right? Because if you do, they will die, all right? And that's as clear as I can make it. Excuse me, I'm having one of these fits with my lungs right now, Luca.
And I'm really sorry, and I wish we are doing something about it. And this is why it's so important, because people like Greg are probably on the close to the #1 on the hit list for the United States government because they don't want to get this stuff to go out. We know what happened to Barry Seal. We know what happened to Phil Marshall. We know what happened to all those people that and Greg is incredibly enough. He's sharing his integrity with us. He's sharing his responsibility in it that he feels implicated with. I'll give you a really good example. There's a really good friend of mine who's a PhD. His name is Dr. Roland Christian. And he got his PhD, and now he says to everybody in all lectures, he wants his 11 years back. Why? Because he's going to spend the rest of his life undoing the harm that he did to everybody, because he knows about the scam, he knows about the sham, and even in the military, there's another good example that we could spend a whole hour talking about on another show, is the fact that, it's called psychiatry in the military. You want to go check that out on YouTube, how much Big Pharma's making, money-wise. You go in to see one psychiatrist on base, and after 15 minutes, he figures you out and gives you what they call a bag of candy, that you can go and ingest. And if you don't feel good, we'll come back in 2 weeks and we'll talk about it, and they're very powerful and very dangerous drugs that they're given just like candy. Here you go,
Well, yes, and I can testify what they'll do to you if they get orders to do exactly what I told your listeners to do. All right. Yes, when I refused to remove my charges for all the hideous torture that was going on at Abu Ghraib and Samarra and 15 other sites of torture. Okay, by the way, Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the head of ISIS, yes, I knew him in Samarra. That was his hometown. All right. And after I was strapped to a stretcher and tortured, okay, my assets were all seized and thrown into torture camps and tortured. All right. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi was tortured in one of our camps, Camp Buka to be exact, after I left. And he proceeded to be so mad, so angry, that when he got out, he just kept track of who these victims were by the Americans and American intelligence. He got together, and with the backing of Israel, they created an army that's unstoppable. All right? They make Al-Qaeda look like Boy Scouts, all right, such as it is. Okay? And so if you want to know who made out ISIS, well, first of all, that idiot Donald Trump isn't going to tell you that, okay? I mean, I've never seen a president that everybody just refers to him in the same sentence as being an idiot or a half-wit or a moron, okay? But he's fighting ISIS. He's going to go out and fight ISIS. I'm sorry. I have some credibility issues here with Mr. Trump, all right? Given the fact that Hillary Clinton, John McCain, Lindsey Graham, and Joe Lieberman are leading the support logistical mechanism of ISIS. Anybody doubt that? Call in and tell me, okay? Believe me, it won't change my mind. That's the issue with ISIS. There are terrorist head-chopping group of thugs, okay? They're ours, all right? And Israel is leading them, all right? The general that was caught, 6 months ago, all right, by the Jordanians? Guess what? An Israeli general leading ISIS. Uh-oh, we've got some problems of credibility here.
Got a really nice line of Toyota trucks, too. The really nice trucks, brand new ones. Wow.
Did you see that?
Wow.
Let your listeners know how beautiful those trucks are.
I'd love to have one.
But let them know about that great, big, very expensive U.S.-made Apache helicopter with an Israeli pilot providing security for this convoy. All right? That's critical. Absolutely critical. Okay. So, yes, all this is going on, okay? And we need to understand that there's other issues that are about to happen. We're about to have some terrorist strikes. They're about to go high tech. Yes, the 9/11 issue was an anomaly, an exception. As Phil Marshall said, Phil Marshall pointed out, and this is a name that terrifies the Bush family, okay? Phil Marshall pointed out that Al-Qaeda had never produced a seriously high-tech terrorist attack. People trying to set their underwear on fire, people trying to set their shoes on fire, okay? Gee, people forgetting to set off a bomb that they put in Times Square. They forgot to turn the switch. These aren't exactly high-tech, go-getters, okay? No, they're not, all right? And that's what made, and I'm further investigating this because Phil Marshall lived very close to me, all right? He was a neighbor, as a matter of fact, all right? And he was slaughtered with his whole family when he pointed out that no, those wild-eyed crazy terrorists flying those planes on 9/11 were not wild-eyed crazies. They were trained pilots that had as much experience as he had. And he was qualified to fly every single plane on 9/11, okay? But that can be traced right back to Arizona. Arizona, where yours truly was being briefed on a group of terrorists by Colonel Anthony Schaefer and Able Danger, his group, Able Danger tracking this group. And he said, oh, they're over there right now. You can step out the door from where we're at and see them training at Pinal Park in Manana, okay, Arizona. All right. So, and guess who was training them with real live 757s and 767s? Boeing was, and Boeing was being paid by the Saudi Arabians, okay? Hopefully everybody can follow this line of thought, all right? The Saudi Arabians paid for the attack on America, 9/11, no questions asked, all right? They paid for that. And Prince Bandar bin al-Sultan, okay, was the point man who was pushing this 9/11 terrorist attack, all right? And guess who was sitting on the White House veranda 36 hours later, smoking a cigar and celebrating the 9/11 attack and the slaughter of 3,000 Americans? It was George W. Bush. Okay, what part about any of that does anybody want repeated? All right? So that's what we have here. We've had this group of robber barons, multi-generational robber barons, okay, called the Bush family. The Bush family actually, they're the only ones that can actually contest that title with the, let me see, what were they called? The French group, the Rothschild family, yes. Who can forget the Rothschild family? All right.
I like how you say Rothschild, because most people say Rothschild, because it's German actually. The Rothschild is German, and all you have to do is we're really lucky because we can Google this stuff now. We have the technology, right? We can look stuff up now, so there's no excuse not to know. And the people that remain ignorant, the people that don't do their homework, not only do they deserve what's coming, but they are complicit in it. They're enabling what's coming.
They're enabling, yes, absolutely. And the Rothschild family, you're absolutely correct, Luca. The Rothschild family were from Frankfurt, Germany, the ghetto, the Jew ghetto, okay?
They were called Bauer, right?
And one mother produced 7 boys, and they all went to the heads of Europe, okay? Each one went to a different head of Europe and started their own banking system and supported each other with the royal heads, okay? Loaning money to the royal heads of those countries, all right? So yes, surprise how this stuff keeps coming back. And guess who shows up in Germany in World War II? Best homies, road dogs, compatriots, comrades, Tavares, you name it, is Prescott Bush. Prescott Bush shows up and has the chemical patent rights for Cyclone B, okay? And he proceeds to license that to the Germans and specifically the G.Ford Corporation, limited group, and then he proceeds to make the gas, which he was paid a fortune in non-negotiable bearer bonds, which were put in place on a group, okay, of utility, the power companies of Germany called Rhineland-Westphalia Electric, RWE. All right. Now, G.Ford is now the largest pharmaceutical company in the world. Guess who owns a big chunk of G.Ford? The Bush family. Guess who owns RWE? All right, a portion of it. The Bush family. Okay, so then they turn right around and they create a company with the help of the Saudis called Bank of Credit and Commerce International, aka Bocce. The Bocce Bank. What, $200 billion disappeared down a rat hole at the demise of the Bank of Credit and Commerce International, Bocce? Yeah. And here's what's important to me. Here's one of the reasons why I was strapped to a stretcher, not for trying to stop torture, but what I discovered about Bocce in Iraq. Yes, folks. Yes, your president, George H.W. Bush, and your imbecile half-wit village idiot, George W. Bush, okay, his son, all right, they, all right, proceeded to sell weapons of mass destruction. And this is in my court case, by the way, with the Supreme Court. Okay, go read it, please. And they sold the P400 1,000-pound converted bomb casings full of VX gas, all right? Oh, well, it didn't really hurt anybody, right? Well, ask 200,000 dead Kurds. Ask 1 million dead Iranian soldiers in the Shah al-Arab waterway, okay? And the Kurds were in the Halabja campaign. Sorry, and here's the biggest surprise. Here's why you should never send your children to war, mothers, okay? I sound like Willie Nelson, I know. Here's why you don't send them to war, okay? It's real simple. Yes, those weapons were there, and yes, the Bush family knew about it, and they told the military. There was only one person that was actually was recorded as getting that information that those weapons were on ground. It was Norman Schwarzkopf, Stormin' Norman himself, that big, lovable bear of a guy, okay? Yes, and he knew that those weapons were on ground when 200,000 troops were running around blowing things up and shooting and attacking, and surprise, whole brigades of soldiers died.
See how we're going full circle? Because we were talking about Schwarzkopf when we were talking about Doug Roke and the Gulf War and the depleted uranium munitions.
You've got it.
So,
you have got it.
Anyway,
okay. And now, by the way, the VX gas is what Kim Jong-un killed his brother with. All right, Kim Jong-un. But what, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, killed his brother, okay, in the Malaysian airport? That's the lethality of VX gas, okay? A little bit was rubbed on the brother's skin, and he was dead 15 minutes later, all right? A little tiny bit, okay? And by the way, you know, just so nobody feels left out in any of this, okay? Guess who sold Syria Scud B missiles? It was North Korea. And guess who sold North Korea VX gas? Okay, it was Syria. I wonder if the Bush family wants to comment on that. All right. So, and by the way, Mr. Putin, the premier of Russia, is in touch with Mr. Kim Jong-un every single day. Okay. No, Mr. Kim Jong-un is not going to start a war. All right, we are trying to start a war with him. Okay, he might be crazy, but he's not nuts. All right, and in this case, yes, he does understand that 27-year-old man does understand how dangerous the Americans are, and he has good reason to try to arm himself to protect himself against these Americans. I just gave your listeners and you, Luca, a nice bit of history. You know that what, half a century maybe, all inclusive, and that'll show you there is nothing that this country isn't capable of, that won't do, and they're doing it by the day. All right. Remember Dick Cheney? He brought us the Copper Green program. 127 countries torturing their people now on contract with the U.S. government. Thanks to Dick Cheney implementing the old Phoenix program. Thanks to the Bush family providing weapons that they could have stopped. You know, everybody said, well, how's that? Surprise, George H.W. Bush, that kinder and gentler statesman, that patrician statesman, you know, waving at the crowd when they go in. He and that sinister viper of a wife of his, okay, remember, you know, just say no, okay, to drugs, okay? Gosh, you know, I get misty-eyed whenever I hear that, all right? Oh, and the part I love is when Barbara Bush was sitting there with a group of senior citizens, and she was saying, you know, about Social Security benefits. Do you think that I would allow my son to destroy Social Security benefits? Well, what happened to make everybody think that Junior might exactly do that? Okay. Well, Mrs. Bush, first of all, I can't imagine you having to rely on Social Security for your medical issues. All right. And yes, your son will do that. And he did do that, tried to dismantle Social Security. He did his best to dismantle Social Security. And who brought on one of the greatest financial disasters of all time? Okay. I mean, it wasn't much different than the 1930s Depression. All right. It was George W. Bush. Ha ha, laugh, laugh. And the Bush family walked away with almost $1 trillion. Okay. We will mention the betting that they made on the hijacking of the United Airlines and American Airlines, okay, in 9/11. We won't mention the fact that they made almost doubled their fortune. Okay. Very strange betting patterns on that. Okay?
Yeah, on Wall Street, they were the stock options, the put options that were put on American Airlines and what was the other one? American Airlines and
United.
United, right.
Yes, that's correct. Okay. Yes, we've got monsters in this country. They're running this country. All right. Who cares about Kim Jong-un when we've got the likes of Dick Cheney running around starting wars to make sure that his oil company maintains possession? And by the way, you know, as I didn't have a chance to say this earlier about the radiation, okay, and the radioactive materials being dumped. If you look at the pattern of that dumping, okay, those are dumped in a certain area. That's called in the trades of combat on a preparation of a battlefield, that is called deniability. Deniability, all right? That's preventing people from moving into certain areas. And if you look at a map, we've got a little problem when you introduce the theory of deniability for your listeners, okay? Because the largest known oil reserves on the face of the earth that completely dwarf Saudi Arabia, okay, are right where that deniability is. That no man's land that we made, guess what? Surprise, that's all being turned into a denied area for human beings to go to. Human beings and high levels of radioactivity don't mix very well. That's what we're doing. We're denying that massive amount of sweet oil. Sweet oil doesn't have to be refined. You can just load it up in your tankers and ship it to the end site, okay, where it can be broken down into distillates. All right, that's what we're doing with that radioactivity. Okay, Luca? Okay, for your listeners, that's what we're doing, and you're paying for it, you dumb saps. You're all paying for it with your taxes. Has anybody ever gotten a reduction in their taxes? I never have. Oh, are you kidding? And we've got this balding, you know, nutcase, okay, in office now, who wants to repeat what didn't George W. Bush do the same thing? Give the top 1% a tax break? Okay, he gave them such a tax break that they were dumbfounded. The 1% was dumbfounded, didn't know what to do with it. And here's Trump wanting to give them another. Okay, well, hold on, people. Okay, hopefully we have some more time here, Luca. Okay, because I need to tell your listeners, okay, why this is so important. Is Vladimir Putin, who sits on one of the largest oil reserves in Siberia, the Pryoshka Basin, as a matter of fact, who already has several hundred American engineers there right now. They're busy putting together a production system for pumping oil through a pipeline out of Siberia down the coast, okay, down the coast of North America to that beautiful and enlightened city of Seattle, the enlightened city port of Seattle, okay, where that's going to basically make Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin the richest people on earth. All right. And so, hey, we've got one president talking to another. I guess that's what they're supposed to do. They're not supposed to actually administer to the needs of their people and defend our country and any of this. No. No, they steal $9 trillion before the election, and Donald Trump gives that to Vladimir Putin to start construction on this pipeline. And I was just told something this morning, is that there's radioactivity being placed in the ocean between America and Russia to act as a no-go corridor, okay? And the pipeline is going to go right between this no-go corridor, okay? And if anybody remembers in Southern California, okay, just 8 months ago, probably a year now, where some sort of rocket was seen arcing through the late afternoon sky and landing 18.5 miles offshore. Well, I'm sure your well-endowed listeners, okay, intellectually endowed listeners know that the international shores of North America are 18 miles. So that's a hell of a projectile to fall 18.5 miles off of shore. And it was actually a sonobuoy, okay, sending information back on the sediment type of bed that's off of North America. And it was designed to basically produce that information when this pipeline is laid and what type of area this pipeline is going to go through along our coast. That's what that was for.
Oh, that's different. Different from the missile then that you were talking about on the other show.
No, yes, right. The warhead. Yeah. The warhead. That's what the warhead did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow.
Yes. Yeah, so the warhead was set up for doing core sampling of sediment, okay, on the bottom of the ocean, and it sent that information back on sonar, on the sonar system, on the sub. Okay. Yeah, it's high technology, but hey, no, what's a few $1 trillion worth of technology among buddies, okay? Especially when it's taxpayer money, all right? That's what we have.
Well, we have to thank you for wrapping up another show because we don't have that much time and we have to get it out as soon as possible. But there's going to be more to come, Greg. We're going to do more shows than I think I can count right now by the looks of it because there's so much stuff that has to go out.
Okay, well, just as long as we let the Brits know, that Whitehall and Parliament are in the crosshairs, okay, of the next cruise missile attack, okay? This is one of the things that happens when you sell weapons to anybody with some money, is you have these high-tech weapons, easily programmable. I think my grandmother could program a cruise missile, while she's making Toll House cookies in the kitchen, all right? And guess where that missile is going to be aimed, okay? Anybody care to ask Dov Zakheim, okay? Oy vey, Mr. Dual Citizenship, okay? That name should send chills down some spines, okay? Mr. Dov Zakheim, yes, the father of the cruise missile and drones, all right? Yes, that Dov Zakheim. And surprise, the UK better get ready to talk to Israel about that, okay? Because that missile is going to be headed in the crosshairs directly at Parliament, Whitehall, London, England, okay? It doesn't take a genius to figure out any of this. I just know how these dirtbags think, okay? That's the issue I want your listeners to think about. Don't be surprised when this stuff happens, okay? 9/11 was the penultimate example. Gosh, and if they could have seen George W. Bush laughing with Prince Bandar on the balcony of the White House, smoking cigars and laughing about 9/11 36 hours later while the buildings were still smoking, okay, they'll know I'm absolutely correct, all right? And until these dirtbags go to prison, all right, I'd love to see Dick Cheney making license plates in Leavenworth, okay? I'd love to see the Bush family learning a real skill like making furniture, okay, in the Atlanta federal pen, okay? I think it'd be a great idea, okay? So thank you for having me on your show, Luca. Greatly appreciated. All right.
And I'm sorry?
I'm looking forward to any kind of feedback, okay? You know, because feedback tells me that somebody's out there listening and paying attention, and they're concerned about their life and what is happening to it. And yes, now more now than ever, we need to be paying attention. All right? Watch these guys.
Well,
all right. Don't believe, you can watch CNN, don't believe CNN, okay? So.
Well, speaking of paying attention, we've been really noticing the crackling on your microphone, and you said that that's the NSA listening. So the NSA, if they are listening, which they probably are, I hope they learned something. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yes, so. Right. You're welcome.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Greg, and we'll do another one very soon.